And I guess, Barry, it's primarily about a game-based approach. I think you're going to introduce to people tonight, which will be extremely interesting for people. But Barry has a long history in Finns. As you know, he was a GPO in our area, but Barry played a lot of hurling for us, but also was heavily involved in coaching in our juvenile teams, and certainly in the group of minors that have just come out this year. I think, Barry, you were heavily involved with that group and for quite a number of years, but also playing with the club and everything else. I think you have a long history of the club and very well respected in Finns, and it's an absolute thrill to have you here doing this, and especially with the response we've seen to you. And it's great. So I'll let you off and get started with it, but thanks very much for doing this for us, Barry. I think it's great to get people thinking while we have this downtime, and maybe start off with different thoughts in their mind about how they coach people. Okay, the best of luck, Barry.
Nice one, thank you. Okay, hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Tonight's webinar is on a games-based approach to coaching. This would be, ideally we'd be doing this in the pitch, and hopefully I get to come up to Finns and roll this out on the pitch where it should be, but it is what it is, and I'll try and make this as practical as possible, and for all age groups. So a bit about me, No, sorry. Yeah. So I am from Tipperary. I was a GPO in Dublin for about 12 years, and for those 12 years, I was a member of Fingallians, playing hurling, coaching hurling. I have a master's in sports coaching from Birmingham, which I finished there in 2017. Which why I mentioned that is I study coaching quite a lot too, and I'm fascinated by a games-based approach, which I will explain as we go along. My clubs down here, we have sister clubs, so my parish is 2 clubs, one hurling and one football club. I went back playing again this year, or last year, and I'll go back again this year. Ballybacon Grange is my hurling club, and Artfinnan is the football club. I'm a coach developer with the GAA and the Camogie Association. Been doing that a long time. I'm a hurling coach for a sports science website called Deely Sports Science. So I'm the hurling coach there, and my job for them is uploading content, writing blogs, hosting webinars, really enjoyable stuff. And the reason I left Dublin and moved back home was to start my own business called Active Sports Coaching, and we coach or teach fundamental movement skills to primary school children in school, through after school clubs, and in the evenings as well. We do it through a games-based approach, and we do it through a multi-sport approach, and I'll talk a bit about that later on too. And we mentor coaches as well, kind of a bit like the GPO role that Brian has in Finns. So first thing I'm going to talk about is your philosophy. What's your coaching philosophy? I have one. We should all have a coaching philosophy. It doesn't have to be a big long one like this one from Wade Gilbert. It could be a very small one. Wade Gilbert's one, I got this from his book, an excellent book, Coaching Better Every Season. Your coaching philosophy describes how you will approach your role as a coach and how you'll ensure that you're staying true to your values. So if you have a philosophy, do you stay true to that? Okay. My philosophy could be summed up in these 3 points here. So the first one is every pass must have a thought, and that's a great quote from Dennis Bergkamp, famous Ajax, Arsenal footballer, Dutch footballer, but now with Ajax Academy. And I read his book there during the summer, and this line really stood out for me. Every pass must have a thought, not the mind-numbing kicking or striking over and back. Our job as coaches is to stimulate the mind of our players and not to numb it. And I thought Bergkamp summed that up really well. The second one my philosophy really is send and receive the ball under pressure. I think you should be a drill, a game, we should strive to ensure that players are receiving the ball under some sort of pressure. Think about the game. Think about the performance environment. And you'll hear me mention that word a lot now tonight, the performance environment. So players receive the ball and use the ball under pressure in the game. It has to be the same in training. And the last one there, repetition without repetition, from Nikolai Bernstein. Okay, and he was a Russian academic, and he talked about that phrase, repetition without repetition. And for me, it means ensuring that making a decision on the ball is a repetitive action, not the mind-numbing stuff, hitting the ball over and back or running in straight lines all the time. Hurling, football isn't played like that. So making a decision on the ball should be the repetitive action. And that's my philosophy. Okay. And I try and stay true to it as much as I can, as Wade Gilbert says there. So what kind of coach are you? All right. So a number of coaches there, really famous coaches, from Vera Pauw there, the Irish manager, Klopp, you've Bielsa, Foley there. And then two coaches that really kind of inspire me, Eamon O'Shea from Tip and Paul Kinnerk from Limerick. Eamon O'Shea is a big believer in players taking responsibility on the pitch and making decisions. And Paul Kinnerk then, he's a games-based coach of fierce renown with Limerick and formerly at Clare, but he's an academic as well. Right. So what kind of coach are you? So I'm going to go through these 4 types of coaches. So the top one here, it's called safe certainty, and this is from a guy called Keith Davids, and he's again another world-renowned academic. He's famous for ecological dynamics and constraints-led approach, and what they are really is kind of the science behind games-based coaching. So the first coach here is the safe certain coach, right? And that's a lot of us. A coach that's on autopilot all the time, that's complacent, that's rehearsed, that's always in their comfort zone. So the coach that turns up to training and just wants to get through it. The coach that doesn't think about the sport that the kids or the players play. It's just turn up, we'll do a bit of a warm-up, do a few drills for 40 minutes, and we'll have an old game at the end. Right, the safe certainty coach. Okay, maybe it's the way they were coached. I think that's the problem. Then we come down here to the unsafe certainty one. Okay, the controlling coach, the negative one. Okay, the very critical coach. Okay, limited participation. We see this in kids coaching quite a lot. For me, the unsafe certain coach is probably the reason why we should be having a games-based approach. So you might have children in long lines waiting for a ball. The match might be 10v10 or 12v12, and there's players dominating the game, and there's limited participation for the other players. They're constantly negative and critical of their players. Then we come down here, all right, the dangerous coach, the unsafe certainty coach. Okay, he's unclear. The players are anxious coming down. This coach tends to be the one that's maybe obsessed with winning. Okay, now winning is fine for the kids. You learn from winning, you learn from losing. But the coach that's absolutely disgusted with a loss, or absolutely overjoyed with a victory, where winning takes precedence, they're the unsafe certainty ones. This is where we don't want to be. Okay, these are kind of, a lot of us might be in between here. Okay, and then we have one up here, the safe uncertainty one. This is where we want to be. All right, the coach that will explore, the coach that will challenge, they'll embrace the challenge, that will provide a challenge for their players, the innovative coach, the adaptive coach. Right? I don't claim to be a creative and innovative coach. What I do claim to be, what I am, is a coach that tries to be innovative. I try and challenge myself and the players. So this is where we want to be. I think a lot of us are probably somewhere here, okay, but we should all be striving to get to this one here, the safe uncertainty coach. All right. So games, why games? So why do we play matches? What do we have to do? We have to outwit our opponent. There's lots of problem solving. Okay, games add value to technical and physical aspects of the game. think of the technical and physical aspects of hurling and football, camogie ladies football, and it adds value to that. Fun and enjoyment, I mean, right up there. They're fun. Players enjoy it. Kids enjoy the competition. You know, players, whether they're juniors, senior, intermediate, minors, you know, games are fun, all right? But it should be the vehicle for learning as well, particularly with the children, any kids coaches out there, that fun should be a vehicle for learning. It's not just about having the crack. You must learn something too. You have to motivate players to improve. And I think a games-based coach or a games-based approach provides that motivation. Simple game sense. You know, the performance environment. Like I said, I speak about this a lot. Games prepare players for the performance environment. What are they going to experience when they play their match on Saturday or Sunday? Training has to reflect that. The social interaction is massive. Okay, it's probably the main part of the GAA is the social interaction. And it teaches exposing children, especially to social interaction, is great. And there will be a section on kids and the social interaction side of things later on. It's providing an appropriate challenge is a major one. So challenging the players, it has to be appropriate. Okay, for the kids, it's you know, it can't be too easy, but it can't be too hard either. Be creative. We want to develop creative players. And how do we do that? We must be creative as coaches ourselves. Yeats has a great quote that education is not filling a bucket, but it's lighting a fire. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we light that fire? And I think a games-based approach is the way to do that. So I showed you a picture there of Paul Kinnerk. And he is, I would recommend you read as much as you can from this guy. He's a lecturer in UL and of course the coach the Limerick Hurlers. And he divided kind of training into two things, like training form and playing form. So we'll have a look at training form first. Brian, if I'm going too fast, just come in there and tell me to slow down. So training form kind of drills, so lots of lines, unopposed exercises, repetition of prescriptive movements, performance skills in isolation, skills similar to drills, no decisions, like passing around a triangle where the coach is telling you where to go, what kind of pass, how to hit the ball, all that kind of stuff. Training form is conditioning with no ball, and then warm up and cool down. And that's probably the only place where I'd have the kind of the prescriptive stuff in the warm up in the beginning. Just getting the players' hands on the ball, but I'd always finish the warm-up with a small-sided game just to get players up to the pitch of the game. And that's start next one, playing form. So applied skill practices. Okay, players performing the skills under a bit of pressure, and it doesn't have to be like a game as in 2 goals and goals and points. It could be a 3v1 or a 5v3 match. You know, overload activities. So you're providing loads of opportunities for players to get on the ball, but there's a little bit of pressure being applied to them. Playing form is modified games, like possession games and small-sided games. Playing form is full-sided games. If we're lucky enough to have 30 players or 28, 25 players, you can play a full match, which is great. And then match-based scenarios like tactical approaches and backs and forwards, but proper backs and forwards, not the one that I did for years when I was training away, you know, where it's just 6 back, 6 forwards and coach pucks the ball in. Okay. So this is another quote. So the techniques, skills and tactics and strategies that players use in these systems can be considered as probabilities, but can't be predetermined by a coach. And that last bit there, you know, it can't be predetermined by the coach, right? Hurling and football, there's no script to it. The coach can't write the script and tell you what's going to happen in the game. So training has to reflect that as well. There must be a sense of unpredictability and less of the prescriptive stuff in training. Okay. All right. Ask yourself as a coach, when you're coaching your players, are you making all the decisions for the players on the pitch? Are you telling them how to hit or where to hit it? Sorry, where to hit it? Are you telling them where to run after the ball? Okay. So this is a good kind of description of training form. Okay, so if you look at the graphic here, so the first square here where it says over and back, you know, you have 1 and 3 here, just hitting the ball over and back, right? Or it could be, they could change it over this way. It could be 3 to 4 and 1 to 2. The classic one, the man in the middle. Okay, this drove me mad as a player, especially when I started kind of looking into studying coaching more. I started coaching a lot more. It's this one here. So 5 gives it to 6, 6 gives it back, and then 6 will turn around and take it off 7. Okay. I used to be really frustrated with that that drill. We used to do it all the time. The triangle, just hitting around a triangle, long distance, short distances. Okay. And then this one here, the square. So say number 13 would pass to 11, and it would go all the way around, and 13 would have to run and get back to here before the ball comes. Okay. So what do you notice about all these exercises here? Okay. There's not one decision being made here. The coach is telling the players where to hit it all the time. All right. Sometimes the coach will tell them how to hit it. Give it high, give it low. Here, you know, you're where to run. There's no decisions being made here whatsoever. Coach is telling you everything, and that doesn't happen in hurling, in football. Think of the sport that you play. Think of the sport that you coach. Does this reflect the sport that you play? So I'm going to play a video here. Hopefully you'll be able to hear and see it. So what are we trying to coach? Okay.
Barry, it's very jumpy. Can you talk us through what the point you're trying to illustrate?
Very, very jumpy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Barry, I think it's quite jumpy, all right. The video, it's not really playing.
It's not playing, no.
Yeah, it's skipping a lot, I'm afraid, yeah.
Okay. Any better? Still jumpy, is it?
Still jumpy on my end, yeah.
Yeah, it's done on stills. It's like if it's done on stills.
Okay. Right, no matter. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah. So, right, the video didn't work. Anyway, so what we were looking at there was different match situations. So we were looking at goals being scored under pressure, players looking up, players hunting in packs, players that were catching the ball over their head. It's a pity you couldn't watch it. I had a picture of Flinner scoring a great point for Dublin as well, running off the ball, taking it on the run and sticking over the bar. I had examples of work rate, okay, and that's what we have to coach. So what I'm showing you here is the match environment matrix by Dave Alred. Dave Alred is a very famous world-renowned coach. He was involved in rugby with England at a high level, and he's gone on, he coaches Johnny Sexton, he coached Johnny Wilkinson, he coached Francesco Molinari to win the British Open, so world-renowned. And he talks about the match environment matrix in his great book, The Pressure Principle. So he designed this. Where's your sport, right? So let's take hurling, right? Where's hurling on this match environment matrix, right? It's right up here. Some sports might be in the middle. Some sports will be down here. Hurling is up here. Hurling is chaotic. Hurling is unpredictable. It's physically stressful. It's very aggressive. Lots of physical contact. Okay, that's the game we play. That's the game we coach. Over here, then, you might have a sport like golf that's very ordered. It's predictable, physically comfortable, passive, and no physical contact. Okay, so why Why would we coach it like that? You know, again, here we have here, look, the ordered, predictable, physically comfortable, all this, no decisions being made, no pressure being put on. But we're trying to coach a sport that's all these things here. And that's why we use games as well. Okay. The skills we should be coaching. I should have said at the start as well, we're aiming for about 40-45 minutes for a presentation, and then we'll have some questions at the end. I forgot to mention that at the start. So the skills we should be coaching: hurling and football, ladies football, camogie, sending and receiving. I mentioned that in my coaching philosophy. Maintaining possession, performance skills at pace, striking, ball control, sending the ball and receiving the ball at pace, maintaining possession while looking up, scanning the pitch. On the video I had, it was a video of a tip player bursting out of defence, looking up while they're sprinting, and giving a wristy long ball into Shane McCallum. You know, that's what we need to coach. That's the kind of stuff we need our players doing. Striking at an angle, striking to a player on the move, receiving and gaining possession on the run. All those things. That's what we have to coach. And games are a great way of doing that. Okay. So Dave Alred is that man again. So he said, failure to deliver training and preparation in the match environment will often result in a reduced ability to perform under pressure in match conditions. Okay, so think about the performance environment again. All right, playing games, game-based activities will prepare the players, prepare your athletes for the conditions they will experience on the Saturday or the Sunday. All right. So we're going to talk about session design. So this definition here, representative design, okay, it emphasizes the need to the task experimental task constraints represent the task constraints of a performance or training. And what that means essentially is that you match the conditions of training to the conditions of your sport. When you sit down to design your session, when you sit down to design your drill or your game, are the conditions of that game representative of what they'll play at the weekend, the match they'll play? Think about the conditions of your sport. Okay, we'll go back to this again. The match environment matrix. These are the conditions of hurling and football. So when we're coaching the pitch, we've got to try and make sure that this is in our session, because this is what's going to be in the game. Right. So this is an acronym I got from, or a principle I got from a really good book, which I'll tell you about at the end. The GroB principle, right? And so the G is the goal. What's the goal of the session? What's the focus for learning? What's your intention for the session? Okay, long term and short term. The short term one might be just to improve kicking, or long kick passing. The long term goal might be, okay, to take advantage of the offensive mark and get scores from that. Or it might be playing a two-person full forward line and have long striking there. So we'd work on the striking in short term, but the long-term goal is maybe our tactical approach. However, what's the reality of the situation? Do the players have the current skill level for that? So do we have to spend more time on the technical instead of the tactical? So to use a games-based approach, you know, there has to be a level, a decent skill level there. So maybe you have to try and come up with maybe different kind of game-based activities or types of activities that will improve the technical aspects of the game. But again, I reiterate there that the linear stuff ain't going to work there. So the drill you design, you try and make that as match applicable as you can. And I'll go through some stuff shortly with that. Options. What are your options? So do you abandon the games-based approach? Do you tailor it back? You know, if you want to work on fitness, do you do conditioning with no ball, or do you go fitness with the ball? What are the types of games and activities you're going to use? How do you measure that performance then? How do you know you've been successful? And the way forward then, the W, how do you prepare for the practice environment? Reflection, inaction, and non-action. So reflection is a key part of that, of any planning process, is reflection. Reflection on last week's session. reflection on the match that was played. So reflection in action would be there at training, something's not working, got to change this. All right. And then reflection on action would be after the event with your coaching group. Just go, okay, what was good there? What was not so good? What do we have to change? And it's really important as a coach, and just get going away from the game-based approach for a second. As a coach, when you reflect, you must reflect. Always reflect on what you did well too. A lot of coaches make that mistake. They think, I must go through this, my plan, and go, that was terrible. Always look at what was bad. Always reflect on what was good as well. Okay, for your own sake. And you might have been doing something the players enjoyed. And then if you reflect on just the bad stuff, you'll probably bin that one. Okay, reflect on what you do well. That's really important. So the types of games. You've got possession games, so large games, small games, small-sided games. You've got applied skills, deliberate practice stuff. You've got full matches, games at multiple goals. You've got 4 goals in your game. Zones, you've got end zones, big end zones, small zones to play into, depending on the team you're coaching or the type of skill you want to develop. Okay. So this is an example of a possession game. So in the video that didn't work was an example from last year's All-Ireland, or not, the 5 in a row game, the 2019 game against Kerry, where Dublin were a point down, 2 minutes into injury time, 5 in a row on the line. And what Dublin did was remarkable. It was hunting packs, hunting in 2s and 3s, winning the ball back, and they did win it back, and they got their equaliser, and they nearly won it in the end. Okay, so this is a game that I would use for that kind of approach, a game called hunting packs. So what happens is that you've got a possession game, so blues and reds. The reds are in 2s, and they must stay in 2s, and they must tackle in 2s like that. They try and stay together. It's harder than it looks all the time. So it's a great game for communication, and it's really hard work. It's great for fitness with the ball too. Okay, and strike, and then you've got lots of striking under pressure as well. And then, so blues are playing. If the reds do turn it over, what happens is the blues then become the defensive team. So they must partner up straight away, and the reds spread out and they try and keep the ball, and so on and so on. All right, so it's a really fun game, really match applicable game. If you look at Dublin, the Dublin footballers are brilliant at it. The Limerick hurlers are exceptional at it. Hunting in packs, winning the ball back, and then breaking and attacking. So that's a possession game. Match-based scenarios. Okay, this is a big one for me. I hated the traditional backs and forwards. We did it for years. The traditional backs and forwards was you'd have 6 backs, 6 forwards here, and corner forwards out into the corner, lined up like they would to start of a game. Coach would be out here around maybe the middle, and he or she would just puck it in, and it wasn't reflective of the performance environment. Because what was happening was, let's just say I was the coach out in the middle of the field, I'd hit it to the corner forward, he'd win it or lose it, whatever the case may be, and then I, as the corner forward, knew that I wasn't getting that ball for a couple of minutes. I take it easy. I'd be delighted with myself or disgusted with myself, but depending on the result. Okay. Whereas this is where I play backs and forwards. All right. I'd make it a match-based scenario. This is game-based stuff, but you're working tactically as well. So I would have just two boxes here. I have a small-sided game here. Okay. As soon as the ball is thrown in, 2 passes must be made here in one of the boxes. And once that's made, the forwards try and score, and the backs try and work the ball out and try and strike it through one of the red gates at the other end. You can see the red gates with the circle around it there. Okay, and once the ball is thrown in, all the players in the other box can join in too. Okay, and why it works is because you have a defender with, let's call him an extra defender or sweeper. If it's a poor clearance, he just picks it up and they attack again. Okay, for me, that's kind of thinking outside the box. The old backs and forwards wasn't reflective of the performance environment, And I believe that this one is. And there's loads of these examples out there, okay, that you as coach can come up with yourself. So that was a match-based scenario. Bit of technical work. So working on going back to what I said about the go back to this one here, the grow and the reality of the situation. Maybe the current skill level isn't where you want it to be on reflection. So this is a game-based drill for me. Okay, in a triangle. So the object of the activity is to hit the ball through these gates here. And it's 3v2. Because it's 3v2 in a big area, the ball is fed. There's loads of opportunities to pass the ball, but you're still being put under pressure. And what you want is the players striking at an angle, like they would in a game, through these gates here, the 2 red gates. Okay? And then when the score is taken, then this fella comes in, 1 steps out, and it becomes 3-2 the other side. And you're putting players into a position where they have to make a decision. The decision is to pass in a triangle. Okay, again, I use Limerick again as the example. If you ever watch Burns or Gallan on the wing, the balls they deliver into their forward line, into Mulcahy and into Shavy Flanagan and those boys, I mean, it's first class. And this is what they practice. It's not striking over and back. Okay, John Kiley or Paul Kinnerk isn't telling them what to do all the time. Okay, he's putting them in situations where they have to make a decision. And you can do this with any age group. Make it really big, but make sure there's pressure on them. Finally, then, the full match. Any of you that have listened to Martin Fogarty, the National Hurling Development Officer, he's a real advocate of playing a full game, and I am too, absolutely. All right, if you're lucky enough to have this amount of players. Okay, sometimes you're not, especially with a club like Fingallians where there are dual players. So if it's hurling training during football week, this is where I go back to these kind of match scenarios here. And then when we have the numbers, you can play a full game. And this game here, if you can see it, I have gates here. So the rule is you strike the ball through the gate or work it through the gate. If you work it through one of the white ones, you go for the white flag, the point. And if you work it through the green, you're looking for the goal. And then you put away the cones and you play a full-on game. No conditions, all in. Okay, matches are really important as well. Okay. Right, so the kids. So I'll try and go through this as quick as I can. Games are really important for children. Okay, they're fun. There's learning in it. We talk about motivating players to improve with the older players. We've got to motivate players to enjoy the sport as well. You can't make children enjoy something, but it's up to you to try and motivate them or to help them enjoy it, or design a session that will, okay, I'll come back here next week. This is fun. Helmut GroB is a German coach educator, and he had a great line. He said, "We want to create chaos, but we want to control it." And chaos is important. It's essential for learning and developing players. Chaos brings a challenge to players and allows them to solve problems. And Eamon O'Shea said that down at that one there about chaos being essential for learning. Okay. Usually out of chaos comes order. When I mean by order, game sense improves and all that kind of stuff. So with the smaller kids, if you're in the nursery or 8s, 9s, 10s even, tag games are brilliant. So we spoke at the beginning about social interaction. Think of the tag games like Stuck in the Mud or stuff like that. Kids working as a team. Tag games involves occupying space. Think of hurling and football, right? Think of the skills that are needed: occupying space, evasion, making decisions, where to run, the sensation of being chased. We'll go back to decisions there. Will I help my friend or will I save myself? Stuff like that. Tag games are brilliant and great fun as well. I was at a tip under 20 session there during before the latest lockdown, just I went up to have a look just for myself, and they had it was a tag game in the warm-up. Lads absolutely going at it. Okay, you can use it at all ages, but particularly for children, it's brilliant. So cooperative learning is all part of games-based coaching for kids. Okay, lots of teamwork, discussions, kids working together. There's max participation. That's what you want. So in cooperative learning, the coach is you're the facilitator. So the kids aren't just depending on you; they depend on each other. So I'll give you an example, right? In my business, we teach fundamental movement skills through a games-based approach and multi-sport. So we play stuff like bench ball, as you can see there. We play dodgeball. Rounders is great for that. If you want to work on positioning and decision making and looking up, rounders is brilliant for that. But what we do is we play a game of, let's say, dodgeball. First round would be over. Before the second round, I give each team a piece of paper and a pen, and they have to write down their tactics. How are we going? And the question is, there'll be two questions. How are we going to play this game better? And how are we going to get everybody involved? And the kids work away, and I guarantee you, the standard goes up an awful lot every time without fail. All right? The kids come up with the tactics themselves. They're thinking, they're working together. Think of the social interaction in those type of games. Just a little bit on the TGFU, teaching games for understanding. So why it works for kids, right? The games are modified to suit the skills and the experiences for children. The skill learning is combined with tactical knowledge. I'll go back to rounders is great for that. Just problem solving. You can ask questions of the kids. What happened there? What would you do there? What would you do next? What do you think is going to happen next? Okay, there's representation of the performance environment. Okay, to think of the sport the kids are going to play. They're going to experience the same things as the adults when they play their game on a Saturday morning. There's going to be, hurling and football are noisy, messy, unpredictable games. Okay, and exaggeration then, when you're playing your games, have time limits and, the classic, 3 passes for a score. So these are some games, possession games, that I play with all ages. The only difference between the adults and the kids is that, maybe the intensity of it. For the adults, you're preparing the players. I play these games here, this game called Stargate, for the adults to win. And we play this so players are looking up, running off the ball, working hard. For the kids, it's the opportunity for these two games, it's to score. There's loads of opportunities to score, and it's fun, and it's small-sided. So the object of this game, Stargate, is that to score, you must run through, each team has 3 gates to score into. So let's just say the white team are playing down towards where this yellow circle is. If they work the ball through either the blue gates, they get 1 point, and if they work through the middle, they get 3 points. And that's the game. Lots of opportunities for scoring. All right. What you could do then, you could put actual goals there and let them score, whether it's kicking or striking into the net. Okay. This game here then is touchdown or end zone. It's just for the lads. It's great for so 4 here could be running up and down here like they would if they're in the full forward line and they run and collect the ball in the run. And if they catch it cleanly, they get a score. It's like a touchdown. For the kids, it's just run in. That's it. Look at the size of the end zone. Loads of opportunities to score. And that's the key. Again, it's small-sided and you're loads of opportunities. And it's a great opportunity for the cooperative learning as well. All right, when you play a game like this, you can ask the kids to come up with their tactics, how we get everybody involved, and try and score again. Matches. So I don't know if anyone tuned into Chris van der Hagen. He was on Monday night. I didn't tune in Monday night, but I've heard him talking before. And then he kind of led one of the leaders of the Belgian revolution in football over there. And what they do, they play loads of 3-on-3, 2-on-2s. And this is the kind of setup we should be seeing in our pitches. All right, whether it's on the pitch or whether it's up in Holywell or over in Balheary, little small pitches like this with poles or cones, and 2-on-2, like that. Okay. Easy to set up. You don't have to have big goal posts. Okay, use poles, use cones. It doesn't matter what kind of ball it is. It could be a plastic ball from the pound shop. Okay, doesn't matter. Lots of opportunities to get touches to the ball, but it's a game as well. There's competition, and they love competition. I only stuck this, some of you might have seen it on Twitter today. I only stuck this in today. Man United did a pilot study. I don't even know when this was. It was recent enough about small-sided games. On average, right? So a 4v4 as opposed to an 8v8. And in the Go games, like, we consider this a small-sided game, the 8v8. 4v4, 135% more passes, 260% more scoring attempts, 500% goals scored, over 200% more one-on-one encounters, and loads of opportunities for dribbling as well, and tricks. All right, being creative, letting them off, and playing. Okay, I thought this was unbelievable. Okay, almost at the end. So, but cautionary tale: be careful. So, what I call the metastable performance region. What is that? So think of, so I have the boxer here. If a boxer stands too close to the punching bag, all right, and he's punching away, good at the body shots, good at the uppercuts, or if he stands too far away, he'll be good at the jabs and the reaching, but he's neglecting the body shots and vice versa. Okay, he's not mixing it up. Here we have a bowling machine or a batting machine in cricket. If this is how they practice all the time, what happens when a human being faces them? What happens when a spin bowler comes along? They're not prepared. Small-sided games. If that's all you're playing is small-sided games, I went through the types of games earlier on. You're going to create bad habits as the players get older. Minors, and they're playing adults, and it's loads of small-sided games. You're going to pick up injuries. You need to mix it up. There needs to be long-sided games. There needs to be long striker under pressure. Small-sided games are great for work rate, and they'd be a big part of my training, but I mix it up. Okay, think of the sport. If you're playing small-sided games all the time, are you preparing the players for the performance environment? The last one here, developing competence, right? Being able to strike the ball over and back perfectly is not competence, all right? Competence is being able to perform multiple skills. So being able to catch a ball and turn and score or pass, that's competence, guys. Okay, not competence in an isolated skill, it's competence in multiple skills. And that's multiple skills are receiving the ball on the run, looking up, giving a ball in, or sticking it over the bar or in the net. That's multiple skills. Okay. Before I finish, I always like to share resources with people. So these are books here. Colm Nally's book, always really good stuff in that. If you haven't bought it already, I try and find a copy of it. Really good stuff in that. The Constraints Letter Approach, it's very academic-y, but there's some really good stuff in it. Mensch, then, this is a book about German football and their coach education revolution and their approach to the game. It's absolutely fascinating. Really, really good book for coaches. Easily understandable as well. Range then just talks about specialization in all walks of life. There's a debate going on about, well, it's been on a long time, about should you specialize or should you concentrate on one sport, and it goes into stuff like that. And active sports coaching, I talked about what we do. If you follow us on Twitter, you go down through our stuff, there's loads of games there, multi-sport games you can take away and use in your own coaching. Just for Twitter, coaching the game, those lads are very good. They've good podcasts. Deely Sport, I'd recommend signing up to them, not just because I work for them. There's a load of stuff there for you. That's our Twitter handle there, and that's my personal one. I always put stuff up. And then people to read about games. These are experts in games-based coaching. You've got two Australian guys here, one called Shane Pill and Richard Light, and then you've got two experts, Irish research, Paul Kinnerk and Damien Young. Okay, so that's me, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, I would be delighted to answer as many as I can.
Thanks a million, Barry. Fair play. I have a couple of questions coming in there. Derek Mack was asking, could you send on a copy of the drills or even the slides, perhaps, if that's possible? And then he was wondering, for CC1 teams of over 40 players, would it be better to base training on the skills or still include mini games into the skills? So I suppose, how do you introduce the skill? Yeah. Mini
games. I had a slide there about how you could do that. All right. I think the slide I put up, there was something like, it was 2-on-2, 3-on-3 is fine. And if you have 40 players, set up small pitches and play away, small games. Don't ignore the technical. Okay. You know, set up your 3 versus 1, absolutely. But try and have a little bit of pressure. You know, with the younger kids, I mean, you might have to do some isolated work, but I would say have lots of mini games as well. Okay, not your 8v8s where one player might dominate or 2. Those 2v2 games are really, really good. And I'm not just saying it, I've used them myself.
Another one then, when you have 17 girls, what would you recommend? Half matches / backs and forwards, or something alternative?
How many coaches with the 17 girls?
That's Connor Maxwell. If Connor, do
you
want to, if you want to unmute yourself, Connor, or
yeah, we have 3, 4, myself, Gerard, Connor, Anne-Marie Brett, and Sheena McCabe. But myself and Gerard really would do it, you know, when Gerard's available, but he's there 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Turnout is very good every for the numbers we have, which were 16. We have 17, but there's 16 training, 15 training most weeks, and you know, it's kind of difficult to do play backs and forwards the whole time. We don't do that a lot of time, but something alternative. We do the 3-goal scenario, 3-goal setup. They have to score 1 goal, they can't score in the same goal afterwards. They have to score another goal.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, Maxie. It's like 3 goals. The girls are making a decision there straight away. They can't. They're looking up, going, right, we have to go to the next goal. 17 girls with 4 coaches. Divide them up. Have a little mini game. Work on a different skill at each station. Okay. You don't have to play a 9 versus 8 game just because you could have 2 small games going. You know, spread the load around, and you know. Maxie, get them playing handball as well, sure. You're an expert at that.
Well, I'm an expert.
Have a handball station.
I'll tell you one thing, I'd love to. Anyhow.
What was it? Are the videos or examples online to show how to coach within games? New coaches usually treat games like matches, little to no intervention, afraid to stop the game. I'm going to partly answer for you. Like, give Barry a follow on Twitter, and that he has loads of stuff, and there is mountains of stuff online also. And Barry, go ahead if you want to add to that.
Yeah, the games-based approaches it's a great way for literally stopping the game and asking a question. Like, keep it short, you know what I mean? You don't want to be, you've got about 10-20 seconds to talk to players, especially kids, and then send them off again. You know, you don't want to be yapping all the time, but ask a question and then off you go again. Okay?
Another one from Paul Carney.
Paul Carney has his hand up there. I better go to him.
Yeah. Can you explain how a game-based approach may be used to implement a tactic or setup to play against oppositional tactical setup? So against a specific team, yeah.
So what you'd be doing, a game-based approach, so think of match-based scenarios and set them up like that. So the one I set up, I showed you. Will I share my screen again and just maybe explain it better?
Yeah.
Go through one of the slides, if that's okay, Paul. Nearly there. So this one here, the tactic could be avoid the opposition sweeper or playing into a 2-man full forward line, 2-person full forward line. So the game will be down here, the match-based scenario, coach throws it in, forwards must score, but you know, the backs are the ones that are going to be long striking and trying to avoid the sweeper. And that's why I set up the gates on the outside. so they can strike through them. You know, the old backs and forwards was when the back got it, it was just get rid of it and lash it past the halfway line and job done. Okay, so this setup here, this is an example of a scenario where set up a target. When I played backs and forwards, you know, as I said, it used to drive me mad, particularly when the coach goes, right, backs, you're forwards now. And I thought, I'm never going to be playing here. Why am I doing this? But what this, again, and what I also spoke about was players must be motivated to improve. So provide scoring opportunities for backs. So the forwards score their goals and points. The back score if they hit the ball through either of these gates. And what you're doing is keeping it wide and avoiding that sweeper. And the punishment is if it's a bad clearance, the sweeper can come in and set up the attack or score straight away. If that answers the question. And just, I mean, you just have to sit down and write down, you know, on reflection, okay, what do we need to work on? How will I set up a scenario like that? All right.
Yeah, someone else just asking about, are the slides going to be up? Well, we will have this recorded and sent. We'll have it up on YouTube as well. I think that's it. Oisín, did you get any more? No.
No, yeah, sorry. There was one that Barry answered, and it was about what, you know, you said about playing things like tag games. You can play them all the way up with any age group, things like that for warm-ups and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't use tag games with the adult players. But every single session I run with children has tag games. I use them as warm-ups. It's just a brilliant way to warm up kids. You know, sometimes you could do a half-hour session in school with tag games. It's just, there's so much there. You know.
Another two. One was, what would a typical session look like? How would it work around the team, or what would you do?
Good question. So I warm up, and you'd be building up the tempo and warm up, finishing with a small sided game. Then I always start the training session with a match or a game-based activity. Something like, do you remember the first game I showed at the Hunt and Packs game? It really sets the tone for training. Full on, intense match at the start of the session. So if you're lucky enough to have 25 players, I'd set up 2 different 6v6s like that. 2 full-on games. Then I'd go into a drill, and the drill is like the triangle scenario I showed you. I do very little unopposed stuff. Then I do a bit of tactical work, again, a backs and forward scenario, and then I finish with, if we have the players, the numbers, a full game. So it's very game-based, but I don't ignore the technical at all. That's my kind of, my ratio will be 3 to 1, 3 game-based activities and 1 technical. But then again, go back to the GroB principle, the reality of the situation. You know, if you're working with a team that needs to improve the technical aspects of the game, well, then it could be 3 technical drills and then a game. But personally, I always start training with a game. Sorry, Oisín?
Would the game reflect the technical then? You know, would you if you were doing, you know, long striking, would you build that into your games?
Yes.
So the technical and games all reflect each other.
It's really important I mean, long striking is hugely important, as is long kicking. And the game would have to reflect that, yeah. So that's why I was saying be careful about the small sided stuff, because if that's what you think a games-based approach is, you're going to be ignoring the other aspects of the game. So yeah, I'd have loads of games for long striking, short passing, off the shoulder stuff, all the aspects of the game. Think of what the sport involves. Okay, and then try and design your session around that. And
where do you get these ideas from? I know there's resources. You have a few go-to places.
So some of the resources up there, Nally's book, Twitter. I design a lot of games through soccer, believe it or not. So if you follow soccer guys on Twitter, like there's a lad called Keep It on the Deck, or Touch Tight Coaching, and you can just look at something and then go, I could apply that to hurling. you know, it's on a bigger area, obviously, and it's adapting. I think it was Jim Gavin that said he's a kind of a a magpie coach. He watches coaches and he just takes something that they're doing and applies it to the needs of his team. I'd be like that, copy and paste coach. You know, please, I don't have time to make it up all these things my own. You know, who has? But I watch a lot of coaches, and I would kind of adapt it to how, you know, for my sport.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Yeah, that's all the questions that came through to me.
Yeah.
Paul
Kearney, did you get to have your speak there?
He did, yeah.
I did. Good man.
Did he? Did you, Kearney?
That was the one about
no, that was my question there, Barry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
There was one about non-contact games. Barry, someone looking for non-contact games. Now I know your end zone one is actually applicable there. You could have that as a non-contact game, and the tackler stands off your
shadowing
meter.
Yeah. I mean, you can. Is this for adults or children, or?
Yeah, I don't know. It probably
yes, maybe might be thinking about COVID games.
Yeah. But there's a game we play, like say a possession game, and we call it arm's length. So if you have the ball in your hand, you can put out your other hand, and if you come with an arm's length, it's a foul. So you're kind of shadowing the player. It's still a bit of pressure. It means that the player on the ball must kind of look left and right. Okay, and it's not the coach going, you must pass it to the yellow cone and then run to the blue and hit it low. So what's the coach doing there? He's telling the players what to do all the time. Whereas if you play that arm's length game, there's no contact, but you know, it's still game based, if you know what I mean. I play a really good game actually called think of non-contact NFL, and I have a little American football, and it's non-contact, and you can't move when you have the ball, but everybody else can move, if you get me. And I do stuff like that.
A couple of the rondos are good as well, Barry, for that as well.
The what?
The rondos.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you'll see them on if you follow Tactical Pad, there's always guys from Spain and Brazil putting up rondo stuff. They're class. Yeah.
That's it, Barry. No, thanks a million, Barry, for presenting a lot of good stuff. We had a lot of our juvenile coaches and coaches from Finns and alike outside of Finns as well. So fair play and thanks a million.
Yeah, we had there was a coach, Grania from my own club down here was on the call. I don't know how she signed up to this for Fingallians, but she got in there anyway. So,
I don't know how I got in there, Barry. I saw it on Facebook and I said, here, I'm going to join this.
Oh, it was you who tagged me. Oh, yeah. So,
Colin, did you want to?
Yeah, I must say, Barry, on behalf of the club, thanks so much. I mean, it's really thought-provoking. I think you look at the response and the questions at the end, I think there's an awful lot for people to take away from tonight and maybe think about when we get back playing, finding the space to put some of this into action. But fair play to you, Barry. I think it's very well presented at a very good level, and I think hopefully the lads will sign up and follow you and start thinking about some of the stuff you've suggested here. I think great hour's work, Barry. Thank you very, very much. Well done.
Thanks, everybody. It's good to see some familiar names there. See Johnny Williams and Dave and Derek McKittrick and Carney. And so, look, thanks to everybody. I see Luke there from O'Dwyer's. How's it going, Luke? Look, I'd love to come up and do this for real on the pitch. It's hard to do this on this kind of platform, but look, it is what it is, and I hope I got some points across. But hopefully I can come up and do it for real above and swords. It'd be great. We'd
love to have you, Barry.
Okay. Thanks, Barry.
Cheers, everyone.
Right. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you
thanks
very, very much.
Slán.
Thanks very much. Brilliant.
Hey, Barry.